Hi, and welcome back to Pages and Projects with Liz. Today I'm here to talk about the 15 books that I read in the month of March. First up, I have Graceless Heart by Isabel Ibanez. This book I gave 4 stars to. I really enjoyed this fantasy. It was set in a time that was just interesting to see how some other characters from the Renaissance were threaded throughout. There were some moments that I thought were a little cheesy or not fully my thing, which is, why it's a 4-star instead of a 5-star. But I do like this enough that I want to read the next book and see how this story continues when that book is out and published. Unfortunately, since it just came out this year, I'm not sure when the next book is going to be out to continue on. But again, interested enough to see how this story continues. Next up, I have A Tempest of Tea by Hassaf Fazal. This book I gave 3 stars to. It was a Kindle Unlimited read for me. I was a little let down by how much I didn't love this story. I thought it was something that would be right up my alley. It has, tea, paranormal, vampires, fantasy, just lots of things that from the description I thought I would really enjoy in a story. Kind of badass women, getting stuff done. But going through it, I just really wasn't that interested. This is a book that I won't continue the series for. I kind of am interested in knowing what ends up happening since it does leave off on a cliffhanger, and maybe at some point I'll just go ahead and read a spoiler to see what ended up happening, where it went from there. But I don't know, there was something about the plot that didn't end up really connecting with me. I found some of the stuff to just drag on, wanted it to go a lot faster at some different points. It just, I don't know, it felt a little scattered with what it was trying to do for me. So it was fine. But again, not a book I will be adding to my list of all my series as something that I want to keep reading through. Next up, I have Forget Me Not by Stacey Willingham. This book I gave 4 stars to. I thought this was a really interesting mystery thriller. The main character's sister had gone missing years ago. She finds diary while at a property that has a connection to her sister and starts piecing together some pieces connected to that disappearance. I thought it was really interesting, some of the different twists that were in there. Some of it was a little predictable, but other parts I thought were very exciting. And so overall, really enjoyed this book. Next, I have This Princess Kills Monsters by Rai Herman, and this one I also gave 4 stars to. This one I thought was a really cute fantasy story. Definitely had some twists on different fairy tale components, and I really liked this modern version of all of it. The representation of different gender identities, sexualities I thought was really great. Some of the different pieces about like who is the stronger character in a relationship. Again, really amusing. I liked how it was all set up. I think if you like different spin-offs of, again, fairy tales and fantasy tropes, that this would be a really fun book to read. Next, I have How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates by Shaylee Thompson. This one was also 4 stars. So a nice little series of 3 4-star Book of the Month books in a row. This book is kind of rom-com meets slasher. So the main character in there is working on a thesis comparing rom-coms and slashers and different plot tropes. And so it all comes out in this. I think it's really fun because it makes some different references to how, people fall in love and start hooking up in slasher films, even though that puts them at a disadvantage, and some of the different tropes that get brought up. There were a couple of twists. Again, some I saw coming and some that were more of a surprise, and so I liked that. I also liked that each of the chapters started with a quote from a rom-com, but rewritten to make it slasher vibes. So I really liked the genre combining with it. I liked the romance aspect of it. I liked the horror aspect of it, trying to figure out who's doing all of the killings. And so this is just a really fun book combining together those genres. Next up, I have Fallen City by Adrienne Young. This one I gave 3 stars to. This book has setting Greco-Roman times. There's dual timelines and also dual POVs. So the chapters are broken up for 2 of the main characters that you're following, and if it was in the past or if it is current time. A lot of different things going on, group trying to take over. I don't really know exactly what it was that I just didn't super enjoy about this book. I don't know if it was the dual POVs plus the dual timelines. I just didn't feel super connected with the characters, and I feel like this is the sort of book where you do want to connect with the characters. You want them to survive through this. It's very much set up for, romance in here. And I don't know, it felt like it was just going so slow at different points. I didn't find anyone particularly likable with how they were approaching different pieces. I just felt like it dragged out in certain areas and then sped through some other stuff fast. So again, fine, but not a book that, again, I care to read the next book in the series. This is another one that if I want to see what happened next, then I'd probably just end up looking up spoilers to see how it finished up, but I'm not really interested in continuing on in this. Next up, I have Agnes Aubert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This book I gave 5 stars to. Heather Fawcett also wrote one of my favorite series, the Emily Wilde series, and so really, really enjoyed being able to read another book written by her. It, has cats, it has a cozy vibe, there's some magic, there's a love story with it. There are just so many things that I really enjoyed with this book and absolutely loved it. So again, perfect kind of cozy vibes for me from an author that I really have enjoyed her previous work. So I'm glad it wasn't just a one-off of enjoying only that series. Next up, I'm going to talk about a whole series. So I have Pride and Premeditation. I have Sense and Second Degree Murder. And I have Manslaughter Park, all by Tirzah Price. I really loved this series. So it's a whole Jane Austen murder mystery series. Each of the books is following characters who were in one of the Jane Austen books, but in a very different format here. You have a lot of strong women doing things that don't necessarily conform to gender roles. And again, just really enjoyed that. I gave each of these books 4 stars. It was kind of fun because the characters from 2 books, one in particular, actually end up showing up in the 3rd book. So it ties it together a little bit, makes it feel like everything was happening in the same world. I really liked the different representations, again, of some of the relationships. There are author's notes that this is not typical of the time and it doesn't necessarily meet the standard conventions, but I liked in this alternative world that all of this worked out. So you have characters solving the different murder mysteries, having different interests, whether it's wanting to be a detective or a lawyer. And so using those skill sets to figure things out and save the day. So again, whole series, which also means that it is a series that I can check off of my list. This was a series that was randomly selected for me this month, and I just loved the first book so much that I wanted to go through and read the other 2. And the covers are really cute, so I am also glad that I enjoyed it to be able to keep these on my shelf. Next up, I have Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and this book I also gave 4 stars to. This one I had heard described as lesbian vampires, so I was interested to actually go in and read this, see what all it was about. I really liked it. It follows 3 different characters starting out at different times for their lives. So you've got 1532, 1827, and 2019, and how their stories wove together, the different ways that they all met, and the relationships formed within all of that. So this is, an example of multiple POV, different timelines, and I really enjoyed this. So I know that it's not a given that if a book has multiple timelines or multiple POVs that I won't enjoy it. It's just, I don't know, something about the Fallen City one I didn't like. For this one, I did feel connected to the characters, and I wanted to see where things went, how the story kept progressing. And I thought it was done really well with the starting point, weaving through to a certain piece, and then making a little bit more like looking back to let another person know where everything was going and what had happened. I'm trying not to give spoilers for any of that. But I, again, really enjoyed this book. Next, I have Bat Eater by Kylie Lee Baker. This book I also gave 4 stars to. I really liked this. So horror, there's a character in here whose sister is murdered. She winds up working to do crime scene cleanup. It talks about different stereotypes and the violence that was going on, especially for Chinese women during COVID. It was weird reading a book that was set in COVID times because that feels like that was so long ago, but also not. So very interesting because unlike some horror books where they're, maybe talking, or just books in general, where they're talking about plagues, but ones that happened ages ago, you feel so much more removed from it. This is one that, I lived through. So it was good. It was good. It was creepy. Some of the descriptions were definitely unpleasant. But overall, I enjoyed this particular book. Next, I have This Story Might Save Your Life by Tiffany Crum. This one I also gave 4 stars to. So again, book of the month actually working out really well for me this month. This book follows 2 main characters through when they became friends. They work together on a podcast where one of them comes up with a scenario and the other talks through how you could survive through that scenario. And then they kind of wrap it up by looking at how the person who was in that situation did survive. In addition to the podcast, there's relationship issues, some domestic violence issues, which those parts unpleasant. And so kind of how there are these little puzzle pieces and mystery aspect to solve to help them out. And again, just really interesting thriller, trying to figure out first where one of the characters had gone missing to, what had happened to them, and then sort of the aftermath of that. Again, trying to be vague to not give spoilers, but I, again, enjoyed this book. Next up, I have The New Age of Sexism, How AI and Emerging Technologies Are Reinventing Misogyny by Laura Bates. This book I gave 5 stars to. This was my nonfiction book that I wanted to focus on this month, in particular AI related. I tabbed this book like crazy. I will say that I gave it 5 stars and I love this book, but also I hate this book. I hate a lot of the things that came up in it. A lot of the technologies and abuse that has contributed to are things that I knew about and had heard before, but there were so many stories all compiled together, and also seeing some of them with the age demographics. So, looking at deep fake images, but also seeing that 11 to 14-year-olds were creating deep fake images of their classmates. And it was thing after thing after thing, all in this. I've already used some of these examples and conversations in some of my classes this semester. It's certainly something that I'm going to refer back to, which is why I wanted to tab it. I had to buy a second set of tabs of the color set because I ran out of some of them from my first collection of the tabs, and I nearly ran out of all 2 sets of some of the colors, in particular institutional and organizational failures. So all of the times that the government, education, and companies have let people down. If you're interested in all of this, I think this is a really good book to read. It has, again, a lot of the stats and stories, and then things that the author is going through and exploring on her own, that I think makes that for a really good picture about what's happening, and then conversations about where this could continue to go, and how some of these things are issues that don't get dealt with until it impacts another group, particularly men. Deep fake videos, when it was inappropriate videos of women. Okay, we recognize that that's wrong, but there were no laws against it. Far more conversations about it when there are deep fake videos of male politicians just, saying things that they didn't really say. So I, again, thought this was really good. I spaced this out throughout the month. So I read portions at a time so that I could really go through, again, annotate. I have multiple colors that I used. So I wound up using 8 different colors, annotating through this so that I could easily find some of the examples and statistics to, again, pull in potentially to classes or just other things that I thought were related and I might want to refer back to. So, loved this book, hated this book, shared it with all of my friends so that we could have conversations all on the same page about this. And the last book that I've read for the month of March was Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This one is interesting because if you saw my March TBR video, you'll notice that this is a completely different cover. When I had purchased Rebecca this year, I just bought the top one from the Amazon listing. Should have gone into a bookstore or done more research. So when I started reading that version of the book, it just seemed a little off. It felt very, I don't know, basic, not really the writing that I was expecting based off of what I had heard about this. And so looked it up. It was a simplified version of it. So it was more of a summary. The writing was different. So I went and I got a full version. Again, should have just realized based off of the thickness of the book, but I wasn't connecting that. Some of my classics are a lot smaller. So went through, wanted to make sure to still be able to read this since it was on my TBR and it was the last one to finish out my TBR for the month. So I really enjoyed this. This is another book that I was tabbing. I think I would actually add more tabs on a reread because there were certainly some themes that I started marking up a little bit later that I know came up earlier too. I don't typically annotate my books. In the nonfiction book, I wrote a few things in the margins so that it was nice to go back through, but I don't know, there was just something about it where even in undergrad for my lit degree, I would tend to rewrite stuff on note paper and refer to the page numbers that way because I just didn't want to write in my book. So I'm trying to at least ease into it by using different colored tabs and having the tabs for different themes. Probably will start writing more as I go along. I wanted to mark some of the pieces in this because I have some more modern books that are supposed to be retellings and different versions of Rebecca. So I thought it would be good to actually start flagging some of these Gothic literature books so that I can go back and see the connections a little bit more quickly. So this book I enjoyed. I also gave this 5 stars, which was a great way of ending out the month. It was just, right amount of creepy. I think if you're concerned about classics and the writing style, I found this to be pretty straightforward with everything. I think this is a very readable, for whatever that's worth, classic. Because again, I know that sometimes people get a little nervous about classics and the writing style, but this I thought was great. You have a couple that get together, they're married without knowing each other for that long. There's a dead ex-wife, there's a creepy house, there's different people that don't approve of the new wife. There's all sorts of things going on. I think it was great. I really just kept going with reading this because there were certain parts where I didn't want to put it down and I just wanted to read the next chapter. And for some of the, again, books that I've read that have said that they're versions of Rebecca, uh, it was interesting to see those connections now. And then it's also interesting that people compare Rebecca to some other classics. And so, again, I'm hoping to chip away going through more of these to see how everything within this genre overlap. But certainly recommend this. I, again, really had a great time with it. And then the last book I want to talk about, which feels like a shame to talk about it now after mentioning ending the month on to 5 stars, is a DNF. So I've mentioned before that I don't tend to DNF a lot of books. You know, some of the books I read this month, the 3-star books, I probably should have DNF'd it, you know, instead of just continuing to read through it just to finish the book. It'd be nice to really read a lot more 4 and 5 stars and not feel like I needed to just keep reading something that was fine. I attempted to read Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson, and that was my DNF. I just really didn't like the characters. I was having a hard time getting into it. I'm not even sure what percentage I made it through. I had heard such good things about it from someone else. It had some pieces that I should have liked, but I really disliked the characters. And I'm fine with unlikable characters, especially if there's a reason to them. But it was a rough go for me, especially the male character who's, you know, working in his in-laws' bar and everything that they have done for him. And he just goes and starts telling people off that they want to be in there, deciding to mess up deals that they're making. The deals weren't great. You know, that's for sure. There are certainly some problematic aspects of that, but also it didn't fully feel like it was his place. And just how over the top, how repetitive some of that got, I couldn't get into it. And so that is my first DNF of the year. We'll see how many more, but I'm trying to be better about it. If for some reason you think that that was a huge mistake and that it just starts out really rough but gets a lot better, I'd love to know. Maybe I'll try looking it up if I can get talked into it, and that, again, just a rough start. I certainly have some other books that I've read that I didn't enjoy the beginning of it, and then once it got through a certain point, really loved the rest. This one just didn't feel like it was going to end up being something enjoyable. It felt like in the beginning something that I would give 1 or 2 stars to, and that's where I don't want to keep reading. And I'm, again, trying to ideally, even though 3 stars to me aren't horrible, they're just fine. They're average. And so oftentimes I'm okay finishing a 3-star. I definitely don't want to be finishing something that I would have given a 1 or a 2 star to. So again, that was Coffin Moon, and I DNF'd it. So there you have it, the 15 books I read in the month of March, as well as the 1 DNF. Overall, great reading month, and I'm really hoping that continues. By far, vast majority of the books I read were 4 and 5 stars, which is awesome. That's what I want. That keeps me really enjoying reading and having a blast doing it and not feeling like it's something that I don't want to continue. Because again, I read for enjoyment. I read to escape and explore different worlds and also learn new things. So I want to keep up with that. I'd love to know in the comments what your favorite book was that you read in the month of March. If it was one of these or something else. Always love to hear about new books. And also, if you've read any of these, what your thoughts were. So, love to have conversation about any of it down below in the comments. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.